Hey everybody, I'm on my little twilight jaunt here and thought that again, just for a change of setting, this might make for an interesting video or interesting location for a video. Ambulatory and also out in the elements and so forth, where you normally see me in my car or in my room. So I wanted to talk about a movie that I rewatched yesterday called Margot at the Wedding. This is a Noah Baumbach film, and Noah Baumbach was, I guess, sort of tangentially related to the mumblecore scene of the aughts. Those of you who don't know what mumblecore is, it's basically movies with not much production value, that are low budget and just feature a lot of downtime and not much happening. which sounds may not sound all that exciting, but I guess the idea is something like cinema verite, where it's not about just smacking you over the head with spectacular things, spectacular events and incredible, powerful revelations all the time, but something more subtle, more character driven. The more hardcore mumblecore films don't feature anyone who's really named, any actors that you recognize, and look like they were just just thrown together in the matter of a few days. There's an amateurish look to them, which is intentional. Again, not much in the way of soundtrack, not much in the way of anything that people would generally call cinematic. But I was a mumblecore fan, and in fact, I think I made, although it remains unfinished. But back in the 90s, I tried to, with a video camera, I made my own sort of mumblecore movie, where I just roped in a few of my friends. Nobody was really enthusiastic about it, but me. I just sort of dragged them along, and it was mostly improvised and blah blah blah. Anyway, that's just an interesting fact. And this was before the mumblecore scene. This was I think as early as 1990 or so, when I was a mere lad. Anyway, Margot at the Wedding is, I find, similar to The Kindergarten Teacher in some ways, in that it's I don't know if it was intended to be this, but it's what it amounts to, just like The Kindergarten Teacher. It's an examination of the pathologies of modern woman, of a certain class, of a certain background. Both of the movies are set in New York and the surrounding environs, and the main character, sees herself as a cultured individual, and just kind of goes off the rails, and is infuriating to have to watch, to have to sit through, to see her just to put up with her shit. Even as the viewer of the movie, you're just like, God, ugh, But the most infuriating, unlikable character, and there's I'd say most of the characters in this movie fit that bill, but the most unlikable one is the titular, again that word titular, the Margot of the title, played by the former Mrs. Tom Cruise, just a few years after Eyes Wide Shut. I'm not sure if it was after they'd split up. I think it was. Yeah, it was a little bit after they'd split up. But Nicole Kidman plays this. I want to describe her because she is such an infuriating character. I don't want to be too vituperative here. I want to just be descriptive. She's, she's a woman of a certain stature, kind of maybe upper middle class, neurotic, a very, very bossy and controlling. I guess I'm starting to sound judgmental here. You can't really describe her without using descriptive words that are unflattering. So what makes the movie interesting what's interesting about the title is what happens in the movie is that there is no wedding. The wedding never happens. We travel with Margot and her son, named Claude, who's maybe like 12 or 13. They go to visit Margot's sister on some island, I think maybe off the coast of Maine or something like that, somewhere in that area. And it's a place where you have to take a boat to get there. And Margot is a very, has been feuding with her sister for a long, long time. Her sister is also not very likable, but she's much more likable than Margot. But they share a lot of the same characteristics. They're both very petty. They're both very passive aggressive. I think, it becomes amusing, the way that they take shots at each other, while feigning, like pretending that it's out of love or out of care when it's actually, some really cutting or insulting remark. It's less easy to take when they say something about their child, which happens frequently in this movie. There's a weird semi-Oedipal thing going between Margot and her son. She kisses him on the lips a couple of times, not like extended kisses, and they sleep in the same bed in a couple of scenes. But generally speaking, she's not a force for good in her son's life. She makes remarks that are thoughtless, and that embarrass him or cause him to feel self-conscious, really without even thinking, without really thinking about what she's doing. But I think there's some process in effect whereby she's she's got some kind of stunted, sort of warped, twisted relationship with him, not like all the way Oedipal, not like sexual, but where she sort of wants to keep him down. She sort of wants to keep him, she's a very insecure person, and she feels the need to take shots at others to sort of puff herself up. What else should I say about her? She and her husband are in the processes of probably divorcing, although they haven't divorced yet. And she's actually gone to her sister's house to where this wedding is going to happen. And Jack Black shows up in an interesting role. He's just this pitiful sort of character. There is some humor, there's some amusement, but his relationship with Margot's sister, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, is pretty. It's far from being an ideal relationship, and Margot is very clear in the contempt that she feels towards him, and she. There's just all sorts of all sorts of petty, backstabbing, gossipy kind of stuff. They talk behind each other's back. Margot's sister tells her a secret, something that's meant to be kept in confidence, and then Margot goes and tells her son about it, and her son goes and tells Margot's sister's daughter about it, and so soon everybody knows. And it's just very typical of the way, of this kind of, this whole environment. And I would say that the one redeeming, I don't even know if it's a redeeming characteristic, but I think there are times when we see how pitiful Margot is in particular, and we feel sorry for her in spite of ourselves, in spite of knowing that she's just an awful person. And when I say awful, not awful, she's not. There aren't any characters. The characters in this movie aren't evil per se. They're not capable of doing anything evil. They are malicious. They are, backstabbing, as I said. It's like the worst of sibling relationships, and where they never really mature. They never really grow out of the way they were towards each other when they were growing up. Margot thinks of herself as superior, and sort of wants to lead everybody else, and lecture everybody else. There's one scene where she lectures. After the kids run out of the room, she tells a father that his son clearly has autism and he needs to do something about it. She just presumes to be that obnoxious. It's pretty hilarious, in a cringe sort of way. This movie was made before the word cringe really caught on, but this is a cringe comedy for sure. There are some uproariously funny moments. There's one moment where Jack Black's character tearfully confesses his infidelity with the babysitter, who might, I don't know whether she might still be underage, that he made out with her, That's what he said. He goes as far as saying that, well, we just made out. And then his father chases him down down the pier to the beach, and it's very funny, in a cringe sort of way, where these characters are just totally unadmirable, but also kind of pathetic, and so you can relate to, or you can, if not relate, you can sympathize, or at least, I don't know if sympathize either, but you can feel sorry for them when it gets exposed just how pitiful they are. So Margot, played by Nicole Kidman, at her most ice queenly persona, the persona that she kind of has had throughout her career. Here, it's just there in spades, and it seems like, again, as I was saying before, she seems to represent a certain type of woman, of a certain class, of a certain background, who presumes to be highly cultured and to be better than everybody around her, but clearly is highly insecure and neurotic, and just somebody you just want to slap, to be honest. I'm not that I condone violence against women now, but I'm just saying. So she's also, I didn't say this before. She went to this wedding, which ends up getting sidetracked. So there's a nice irony in the title, because the wedding never actually happens. Okay, maybe that's a minor spoiler. I don't know. It's not really that big a deal. But she's also there because she's the guy that she's sort of romantically entangled with, even though she hasn't divorced her husband yet. He lives like a mile away on this island. So Margot's sister says, Jennifer Jason Leigh's character says at some point, sometimes I think the only reason why you showed up is because the guy you're fucking lives a mile away. Just painful dialogue like that, but also, humorous, like I said, in a cringy sort of way. Now, Noah Baumbach is, I'm sure, a very liberal New York Jew kind of guy. So I don't know if this is intentional on his part, but I think the movie, intentionally or not, could be called reactionary, or could be, I don't know, labeled as misogynistic by some, just because it's very unsparing in the way that it portrays these women. Now, the men who are in the story aren't very likable either, but it's the central relationship is Margot and her sister, and the way they relate to one another and the way they relate to others, it just seems, again, very representative of what one could call a certain type of modern woman, of a particular class, of a particular background, from a particular region, the more upper crust New York, cultured, she's a writer and this, that, and the other thing, and while it's maybe not as shocking as the kindergarten teacher is, because we don't necessarily see Margot or her sister do anything that just really pushes the boundary of in the way that the kindergarten teacher character, she really goes all in because she believes she knows what's best for this child. So she ends up kidnapping him. At the end of the story, there's nothing quite like that. Nothing quite as shocking or as provocative as that. But still, there's something about these characters, and there's like an honesty in the way, an unsparingness in the way these characters are shown, where you ultimately don't end up totally hating them. You develop a kind of, like I said, if not sympathy, you can see what's pitiful about them. You can see, the things that are lacking in their lives that they are overcompensating for. To me, what I find hardest to forgive is the way they treat their kids, the kind of things they say to their kids. And it's just like these casual sorts of remarks that are very hurtful. And they just say them, they just fling them off, not understanding how what kind of effect that has on kids. I find that stuff very difficult to forgive. So there you go. Margot at the Wedding. You can watch it on Netflix if you've seen it and you have thoughts. Please leave them below. Thanks for watching.